The Secrets of Egypt, the country where traditions abound and cities lie in dirt Egypt. Land of pharaohs, of gods with jackal heads and human bodies, of temples that seem to defy time itself. Yet what few dare to reveal is that behind every majestic monument, behind every sunset postcard of the Nile, there is a raw reality, a fierce mixture of age-old traditions, hidden passions, and a physical grime that contrasts with the purity of its ancient rituals. This country not only preserves the mystery of the past, it breathes it out, hides it in alleyways, turns it into living legend. To grasp Egypt's deepest secrets, one must venture beyond its pyramids. It is not enough to pose before the Sphinx or let oneself be hypnotized by hieroglyphs carved with surgical precision. One must lower one's gaze, smell the dust mingled with human refuse, watch life pulse among camels, plastic bags, and barefoot children darting through mounds of rubbish. Here contrast takes on flesh. Egypt is not merely a postcard of glorious yesteryear. It is also a land where misery rubs shoulders with spirituality, where still-beating sensual traditions entwine with the stench of urban life. In the heart of Cairo, where more than 20 million souls press together as though the city were built to collapse, there is a district tourists rarely enter, though it lies close to sacred roots. Manshiat Nasser, popularly called Garbage City. Houses are bare concrete, the streets unnamed, the roofs crowned with sacks, cardboard, and often scavenging beasts. Yet the place is not without order. This city lives on recycling. The Zabaleen, a Coptic Christian community, have dwelt here for generations, collecting Cairo's refuse and sorting it with brutal efficiency. What others deem repugnant, they have turned into a livelihood. But the most striking feature is not the filth. It is what happens amid those dusty streets. For among the mountains of waste, whispers bloom. It is not unusual to hear tales of women seeking spiritual aid among the recyclers. Yes, there, amid plastics and metals, ancestral wisdom also lingers. Some women arrive to perform secret rites, love spells, brews to attract the desired man, potions to spark fertility. In these seemingly marginal surroundings, past and present cross paths in almost mystical fashion. And what would you think if you learned of rituals in which women bathe in infusions of desert herbs, coat their bodies in perfumed oils, and speak words in ancient Coptic to bless their wombs or conjure erotic dreams in the chosen man? Such practices survive in the shadows, handed down generation after generation, carried out in silence, in the half-light of the least imagined neighborhoods. Eroticism in Egypt is not displayed. It is hidden, protected, camouflaged beneath layers of dust and tradition. By contrast, stand the great cities, Alexandria or Luxor, where the tourist image has almost erased the essence of ancestral desire. Yet even there longing persists, though disguised. In dark cafes open only to men, stories circulate of forbidden love, passions consummated in secret, women defying norms by composing poetry, laden with eroticism under pseudonyms, and men seeking modern prophetesses for blessings in marriage or advice to rekindle a withered flame. All in hushed tones, all in complicity with secrecy. Egypt is also a land of superstition. Even today, many families, before approving a marriage, visit elder women known as readers of destiny. These sages do more than read palms or interpret dreams. They know the human body, the gaze, the gestures. They gauge the physical and energetic compatibility of the future spouses. Will she be fertile? Will he possess the fire to keep her desired? Such questions, though never voiced aloud, are answered in intense glances, in secret infusions offered under the guise of hospitality. Can you imagine growing up where, from childhood, you learn that desire must be hidden, yet also revered? Where a girl's first menstruation is celebrated in secrecy because it signals fertility, yet it is marked by a silence as heavy as stone? where young men hear in the street tales of desert witches who can love and curse at once, where amid refuse and sand passions sprout that do not wither but transform into legend. Amid all these elements one symbol stands out, the khamsa, an open hand with 5 fingers, emblem of protection and also of desire. In many Egyptian homes it hangs to ward off the evil eye, yet few know that in certain love rites the khamsa is drawn on the naked body with natural ink over back or belly, invoking fertility, passion, the meeting of souls. It is not merely an amulet, it is a key that unlocks invisible doors between the realms of desire and the divine. In Egypt the forbidden is not always obvious. The truly provocative lies in the unspoken, the whispered, the events behind doors veiled by bead curtains. Even the garbage keeps secrets, even the dust carries memory. My country is a mélange of intense scents, incense, sweat, rubbish baking under the sun, and also jasmine, mint and sandalwood, a potion that intoxicates the senses and stirs the imagination. Such is Egypt, a land where desire walks barefoot through dirt, where millennia-old rituals still beat beneath the skin of modernity, where cities are stained not only with dust, but with silent passions. And if you listen closely, amid the din of the markets, you may catch an impossible love story, an ancient spell still alive, or a glance laden with promises that will never be uttered aloud. And this is only the beginning. On Egypt's dusty streets, where traffic chaos mingles with sunset prayers and the pungent aroma of burnt spices, lies a hidden corner absent from tourist guides. It is not a carpet souk or a bazaar of magic lamps. It is a symbolic marketplace, invisible yet latent in every city and village, the market of desire. In certain rural regions, especially in the nation's south, families still arrange marriages as though closing commercial deals. Yet what appears an archaic custom is in fact laden with secret codes, sensual rituals, and symbols surviving from pharaonic times. Brides are chosen not only for beauty or lineage, but for hidden signs, the sparkle of their eyes, the length of their hair, the way they walk with head covered while the body speaks for itself. In a village near Aswan, one hears of an ancestral rite some families still practice in secrecy, the veil dance. It is no show for tourists, but an intimate ritual reserved for the night before formal betrothal. The young virgin bride dances alone before a circle of elder women, covering and revealing her figure with a thin veil, showing with gentle movements the curve of her hips, the firmness of her torso, the promise of fertility. There is no blaring music, only the creak of bracelets, the whisper of fabric, the contained heartbeat of what is to come. The rite proclaims not merely the passage into adulthood, it is a silent declaration of the body as power. These rituals are not public. Many men never witness them. In Egypt, female desire is venerated from the shadows, from a whisper. It is celebrated in handwritten poems, in glances exchanged during Friday prayer, in small amulets hidden in garments. For instance, in parts of the Nile Delta, women fashion necklaces of red and black beads called threads of the night, worn beneath clothing as sexual talismans to enhance allure. No one sees them, no one speaks of them, yet their mere presence transforms the energy of the wearer, and what of the men? They too join this hidden game, though in other forms. In districts such as Imbaba or Shubra, where poverty and faith clash daily, the ritual of the Sage of Desire persists. He is an older man, usually blind or nearly so, believed to hold a link with ancient spirits. Young couples, especially insecure men, visit him for counsel on winning or keeping a woman. In exchange for coins and hot tea, he offers mysterious phrases, formulas to whisper softly, or perfumes blended from musk, cinnamon, and ground clove. Perfumes that, they say, do more than seduce. They mesmerize. Here enters a deeper dimension of hidden Egypt, sexual magic, Far from a modern invention, Egyptians have practiced forms of ritual eroticism since time immemorial. In ancient papyri, locked in private collections or inaccessible museums, astonishingly detailed formulas describe how to excite body and soul. Words which, whispered to the ear during carnal union, supposedly lift sexual energy to a spiritual plane. They are phrases in Coptic, written with ink of resin and dried wine, read only by those who have inherited the secret lore. In certain circles today, some believe orgasm can open portals, that in the instant of utmost surrender between two bodies, the soul slips briefly from its chains, allowing one to see beyond, to touch other realms. Among desert tribes, consummation of marriage is deemed not solely physical, but divine. For centuries, elder women have instructed the young on guiding a man into that trance, using not only the body, but also voice, silences, breath. Yet all this hides beneath a veil of conservatism. Officially, Egypt is a nation where modesty rules, religion guides public morals, and sexual displays are censored. But the harder desire is smothered, the more intensely it burns. Thus the country seems to pulse within, like a dormant volcano. Can you imagine living in a society where eroticism is repressed yet quietly cultivated like a poisonous flower? Where love is measured by what remains unsaid, and the body becomes a battlefield between tradition and instinct? In Egypt, every gesture holds double meaning. A scarf at an ankle, a cold shadow shaping the eyes, a whiff of myrrh drifting without reason. Everything is symbol. Everything is message. Dirty cities are stages of desire too. Cairo, for example, is a throbbing mass of bodies, engines, dust, and exchanged glances. On concrete rooftops, away from the world's eyes, clandestine meetings occur. Lovers who cannot show themselves seek one another under the starry sky, among clotheslines and rusted antennas. Love in Egypt is not always gentle. At times it is desperate, anxious, stolen, and while all this unfolds, the country functions as if nothing were amiss. Women walk veiled, yet beneath the cloth, hearts burn. Men pray in mosques, yet between prayers they fantasize about a stranger's gaze. Families arrange marriages, yet brides whisper their true desires to the moon. Egypt is, without doubt, a land of extreme contrasts, but it is also a mirror of the human soul, a place where the deepest and the darkest coexist with the most sacred, where filthy cities conceal gardens of pleasure, where bodies are temples and desire a force that neither centuries, nor religion nor morality have entirely quenched. And if you think you have already seen everything, wait, for Egypt's true mystery remains to be revealed. At first glance, Cairo's slums seem a visual nightmare. Unpaved streets, dangling cables, mountains of rubbish amassed between half-built brick houses. Yet beneath that apparent chaos beats a universe few outsiders decipher. In Egypt, dirt is not always a sign of decay. At times, it is a cloak hiding the fiercest secrets. Zabaleen, that is what the capital's garbage collectors are called. They are Coptic Christians who for generations have built an entire city upon waste. Manshiat Nasser, better known as Garbage City. Tens of thousands live amid heaps of plastic, cardboard, rotting meat, and the leftovers others discard. But within this organized misery, something unexpected occurs. Rituals mingling faith, necessity, and the occult. When night falls, once the heat relents and the bustle fades to a distant hum, some women of this community light candles beside mountains of refuse. Not for prayer nor spiritual illumination. They seek to summon something. They use shards of broken perfume bottles, limbs of abandoned dolls, locks of hair tangled in old brushes, objects that to any eye seem worthless, yet in their hands become ingredients for spells of attraction. These spells are performed in secret, almost in silence. A woman sitting on a concrete staircase, her nails filthy and her scarf askew, may be reciting a formula learned from her grandmother while she holds a tiny vial of musk essence salvaged from the trash. The goal is not always to win a man over. Sometimes it is to induce a dream in him. Other times it is to plant unease in his wife. And there are stronger cases. Cravings for revenge, for blind passion, for obsession. One of the most feared spells is the so-called Sahret el-Giba, or the whisper charm. According to Cairo's urban legends, this incantation can sow extreme jealousy in a man's heart by merely pronouncing his name into the ear of a black goat at midnight. Absurd as it may sound, some swear it has destroyed marriages and unleashed unbridled passions. It is a dangerous spell, forbidden by the imams, yet protected by the matriarchs of hidden desire. In the dirtiest neighborhoods where sanitary conditions are minimal and privacy is a luxury, desire lives in the shadows. The concrete walls are so thin that sighs can be heard from one side to the other. In many homes, the only door is a curtain, and yet, amid that crowding, women prepare themselves as if they were queens of the boudoir. They use handcrafted perfumed oils whose recipes date back to Cleopatra's time. Some are brewed with flowers gathered in cemeteries, others with cinnamon powder and vinegar left to ferment for weeks. It is within these spaces that the most intense bonds are forged. There is no room for shame. Contact is inevitable, and desire irrepressible. Young people who sleep on mats in the same room, couples who share a bed with children at their sides, women who bathe with buckets under their neighbor's gaze. Everything is exposed, everything repressed at the same time. It is a fierce contradiction. The less room there is for desire, the more powerful it becomes. In certain districts, there is a female figure as mysterious as she is feared, the Karina. According to Egyptian folklore, she's a kind of cursed spirit or shadow that appears in men's erotic dreams. These entities are thought to be linked to repressed desires and unsatisfied sexual practices. Some claim to have seen her, a woman with completely black eyes, naked body, bare feet, walking across filthy rooftops before dawn. She insinuates herself into dreams, yet leaves real marks, sweat, scratches, weakness on waking. Imams and healers offer amulets against the Karina, but some men refuse them, not because they doubt the danger, but because they enjoy the visit. For even in fear there is pleasure. In Egypt, fear and desire are not always opposites. Sometimes they are the same thing, disguised. But garbage does more than feed spells and legends. It is also a mirror of collective desire. One need only look at the discarded objects, old magazines, broken toys, perfume bottles. In the dumps of Manshiat Nasser, there are people who gather these remnants for very particular ends. Someone claims to have created a small museum of lost desire, a secret room filled with torn erotic photos, discarded love letters, headless dolls and broken mirrors that have reflected hundreds of bodies over time. In this dirty city, filth is part of the ritual. Bodies sweat, smells mingle, and every stolen caress tastes of the forbidden. For if in tourist zones desire hides behind religious norms, in these marginal zones it is lived with savage rawness. There are no veils, no refined rituals. There is urgency, there is contact, there is hunger. The contrast is brutal. While five-star hotels conceal their eroticism in perfumed spas and discreet massages, in neighborhoods where water is scarce, bodies brush without protocol. Their desire ceases to be a luxury and becomes a vital need. And you? Could you walk among mountains of trash knowing that beneath them lie love spells, hidden moans, silent pacts and shadows that watch you while you sleep? In Egypt, even what is thrown away has a soul. Even filth seduces. Behind the apparent moral rigidity that Egypt projects to the world, a secret web of bonds and passions defies every rule. We are not speaking only of forbidden loves or furtive encounters in dark alleys, but of parallel marriages, rituals that look legal, yet are laced with desire and convenience. Egypt is a land of dualities, what is shown and what is hidden, what is celebrated and what is whispered into an ear. One of the most intriguing secrets is Urfi marriage, a practice that spreads like a whisper among both young and old. This kind of union, never officially registered, is sealed with a simple declaration before witnesses and many times with a handwritten paper. For Egyptian law it is not always valid, yet for the heart and the body it is more than enough. Urfi is the marriage of hidden desires. Many use it to live their love without family interference, others to have relations without being accused of sin, and some, the boldest, to keep parallel relationships without the legitimate wife knowing. In Egypt, such an agreement can remain hidden for years. Two people can share bed, home, and secrets without their story appearing in any civil record. But not all passion is consequence-free. Some women are abandoned after years of urfi, with no right to inheritance or any claim at all. In the land of mystery, love can be as volatile as a cloud of incense and as powerful as a sandstorm. Women who choose this bond do so with a mix of rebellion and hope. Some see it as a way to escape family control, others as a wager on a love that might later be formalized. Yet all live it as a sacred secret, a flame that must not be extinguished. In Cairo's universities, in cafes hidden down alleys, in flats shared by students, Urfi blossoms like a night flower. It is not announced, it is not flaunted, it is lived, and it is hidden, like everything that burns fiercely. Another unsettling phenomenon is that of so-called temporary marriages with tourists. Though officially denied, in cities like Luxor or Alexandria, young men form relationships with foreign women, mostly Europeans, through informal agreements that mimic legal unions. Some of these relationships are sincere, yet many are driven by interests. In exchange for company and pleasure, the women offer gifts, money, or even trips. It is a game of seduction and power in which both sides believe they hold control. These men are mockingly called Egyptians of love. Young men with dark eyes and sharp smiles stroll along the Nile's banks, hunting for foreign gazes. They know what to say, how to touch, when to yield. They have learned to read desire in other languages, to kiss with borrowed accents. They are experts at awakening fantasies of adventure, danger, and pleasure in far-off lands. And the women succumb, not only to the physique but to the setting. Egypt is no ordinary country. It is a stage laden with symbolism, history, and magic. Walking through Karnak's ruins hand in hand with a young Egyptian who whispers tales of Cleopatra and calls you queen can be more intoxicating than the finest perfume. It is easy to confuse passion with eternity, desire with destiny. Yet when these relationships end, they do so with brutal speed. Sometimes after the first argument, sometimes when the tourist returns home and never answers another message. Often what seemed like love was merely a spell that dissolved in the desert breeze. In parallel, another kind of love blooms in the shadows, homoerotic love. Egypt, like many conservative countries, is a place where homosexuality is not officially accepted, yet is lived in secret. Dating apps are restricted, monitored, hacked, and still the meetings happen in parks, in public bathrooms, in apartments loaned by friends who understand the risk. Men who seek other men do so with a blend of fear and excitement. Every date is a dangerous adventure, every glance a coded game. In the poorest areas, repression is even stronger, but so is desire. Some adolescent initiation rituals persist in secret, under silent pacts of eternal confidentiality. No names, no evidence, only memories that burn on the skin. In the Shubra district, for instance, alleys echo with whispers about the dark room, an apartment where, for years, those with nowhere else to be themselves have met. Some arrive silently, heads down, others laughing nervously. Inside there are no judgments, only bodies, only size, only need. This hidden world also has its mystical codes. Some say sorcerers work solely to align the desires of men attracted to men who do not accept themselves. Potions are offered to cure what is not an illness, or amulets to erase guilt. But there are also witches who do the opposite. Invocations to intensify forbidden desire, to trigger an encounter, to create obsession. One of the most controversial rites is the lunar mirror, a ceremony using a mirror bathed with bird blood under the full moon to visualize the face of the desired lover. According to rumors, some have performed it and days later met someone with the very face they saw reflected. Coincidence or magic? In Egypt, both options are plausible. Desire in all its forms slips through society's cracks. No matter how hard anyone tries to hide it, it always finds a crevice, in a hidden letter, in a stolen caress, in a spell murmured through clenched teeth. Egypt is not only a land of pharaohs and ruins, it is also a country where love crawls through the shadows, dresses itself as tradition, and sometimes explodes like a silent scream. Egypt, the land of pyramids and pharaohs, is also the homeland of the most human contradictions. In its scorching deserts and chaotic metropolises dwell not only history but excesses, repressed desires, and the rawest ways of survival. And in its lesser-known cities that contrast reaches its peak. A few kilometers from tourist routes lie places like Manshiat Nasser, popularly nicknamed Garbage City. From afar it looks like a tangle of broken bricks and tin roofs. But inside, one discovers a world unto itself. Thousands of people live amid mountains of waste, collecting, sorting, recycling. It is a village in its own right, a universe where children play on plastic bags and the smells, intense, acidic, organic, blend with daily life. Yet the most surprising thing about this place is not its recycling role but what happens behind its roughly plastered walls. Where despair exists, so does desire. In these no-man's cities flourish secret markets that sell everything the system denies. Pleasure disguised as hospitality, remedies that promise to awaken passion or secure eternal fidelity. Stories circulate about women who brew potions with menstrual blood, sugar, and ashes to keep a lover bound regardless of his marital status. Street vendors are said to offer, among fruits and soaps, discreet, bed-warmer elixirs made with ingredients whose origins no one dares to question. There are even rumors of an old healer nicknamed the Widow of Desire, who, for a few Egyptian pounds, hands you a doll carved from animal bone. They say that if you place it under the bed and repeat her spell, you will attract the love you want, or at least an intense night. No one knows her real name, no one has seen her full face, yet everyone searches for her in the damp alleys when the heart burns and logic fades. In these forgotten neighborhoods, where the government barely enters, secret parties also flourish. Far from the eyes of clergy and morality police, young and old gather in basements to celebrate body and rhythm. Shabby music at full blast, dim lights, bodies dancing pressed together. Here what is forbidden outside is allowed. Touch, skin, prolonged gazes, and oblivion. For a few hours, misery disappears, replaced by an illusion of freedom. But how do these spaces of pleasure coexist with such a rigid society? The answer lies in collective hypocrisy. While a facade of purity stands firm before outsiders, inner cracks widen and fill with secrets. Everyone knows what happens. No one says it aloud. It is a tacit pact, a dance between shame and desire, and though many condemn, many also participate. Officials who by day pursue immorality seek a healer's blessing by night. Fathers who preach virtue hide tales of past lovers. Mothers who fear for their daughters once drank the widow of desire's elixir. No one is completely clean. In Egypt, filth is not always in the streets. Sometimes it lives in thoughts. That is Egypt, a country where secrets do not die, they merely change shape, where passion never extinguishes, it only camouflages itself among prayers, fabrics, and superstitions. Where every city, no matter how dirty or abandoned it seems, hides a universe of furtive caresses, forbidden rituals, and desires that refuse to die. After everything you have heard, will you still see Egypt only as the land of pyramids, or will you start to see it as the place where secrets still breathe,